No sensationalization here. No, sir. Turns out, Rings of Power is not only bad for your eyes, that's right, the sheer lack of passion can actually erode your retinas. It's bad for your brain. People who were sick enough to binge the show ended up looking like this.
Really about to get your pickle chin that boy.
And, thanks to Rosie and Jim, it severely affects your faith in humanity and creativity. So, it's not only bad for you as a person, but as it turns out, it's now bad for the environment as well. It's funny that, isn't it? That Rings of Power is killing Amazon's appearance as a company and also killing the Amazon rainforest as well now. Now that's poetry. Hashtag Galadriel started climate change. Now, of course, what we're going to be talking about today, it's not exclusive to the Rings of Power, but for the next, 10 minutes or so, let's just pretend that it is. Okay? Okay. So what's this all about then? Well, it turns out that it's not just the entire Tolkien fanbase that's angry at Amazon right now. No, now it's an entire country. Beautiful New Zealand, to be precise. Workers involved in Amazon's The Rings of Power, as well as other international studio productions in New Zealand, say that behind the glamour and the cash flow the industry is touted for lie serious concerns about its enormous environmental impact, including emissions and waste. Oh dearie me, well, Papa Bezos better watch out, because if you get rid of all the ice caps, the polar bears have to go somewhere, don't they, Jeff? My vote, I say we ship them all to Jeff Bezos' living room. It'll look like a weird indie sequel to The Golden Compass. It is worth keeping in mind then, people who support the Rings of Power are helping to kill little baby penguins. You just think about that one. They say the true size of that environmental cost is typically hidden from the public by studio walls, and because some crew members are afraid to speak out because they risk being blacklisted for raising concerns. Unfortunately, this is a problem that most people will encounter at some point in their life, particularly within work environments. If you raise concerns about your current situation, you risk being removed from it by people who don't want to hear it. A couple of years ago, I worked at a clothing store, and the manager there was... She was a bitch. She was a big, stinky bitch. Now, I'm not naming any names. Gina. But myself and one of my workmates, we had to explain to her at one point that the sun and the moon were two different things. She thought that the sun just went out at night. We had to wait until a day where the sun and the moon was visible at the same time to show her, and it was then, and only then, that she believed us. Just to give you an idea of who we're working with. She was horrible, she treated us all like shit. She palmed all of her work off on her subordinates and got paid more than all of us to do basically nothing. But who am I going to complain to? Am I going to go to HR? Okay, what if they pick up on it and actually talk to her about it? Then she's going to know one of us has said something. And then she's just going to make all of our lives even more miserable than they were. It's a completely different kettle of fish, I know, but what I'm saying is I understand why people who work on the Rings of Power, or any production for that matter, might not want to come forward and say something. Putting your livelihood in jeopardy, even if it's for the greater good, can be a tough call. It's a hard gig to get, and if Amazon catches wind of you whistleblowing their, environmental practices, that's a one-way ticket to Jeff's gulag, my friend. Anyway, The Guardian, it's a newspaper, I guess. They reached out to a bunch of people who worked behind the scenes on Rings of Power, and one of them had this to say. I'm speaking out because I like film. I like working in film. I want to continue in the industry, but not the way it is currently. It's appalling what's happening, and most people don't know about it. If people knew how destructive the whole business is, they would think twice. Concerning words, to be sure, and this one is even worse. If huge corporations want to come to this country, New Zealand, and use the beauty that's here, there's a duty to preserve the beauty. They're getting tax cuts, and we're left with all their trash. It's heartbreaking. I feel like New Zealanders are being completely taken advantage of. These poor Kiwis! While Jeff is performing the hacker on top of Tolkien's grave, all of the New Zealanders have to pick up all the garbage that he's left behind. Now, this guy did say that New Zealand has been left with all the trash from Rings of Power Season 1, but I mean, that's not entirely true because it was broadcast globally. Mountains of waste. Leaked internal communications from the Rings of Power sustainability team, which was fully appointed almost a year into the production in January 2021, indicate the team was struggling to get to grips with the size of the problem. The environmental impact of this industry and of this show is enormous. One member of staff reads, after holding discussions with the crew, they write, every single person we spoke to is concerned about the environmental impact. I didn't even know productions had sustainability teams. I've never heard of that before. These big budgets can have such an impact. They need a team, not just a guy, a team of people making sure all of the little baby polar bears and all of the little baby penguins are safe from Jeff Bezos and his multi-million-dollar mediocre media machine. Try and say that 10 times fast. Coincidentally, that is the name of my upcoming indie band as well. Look out for a single coming very soon. By July 2021, the first season of Rings of Power had generated roughly 14,387 tonnes of carbon dioxide, 5 times what the British Film Commission estimates an average tentpole or blockbuster film would produce. Now, to put that into perspective, the average car will produce about 24 tonnes of CO2 over its entire lifetime. Its entire lifetime. This show's first season produced just shy of 14,500 tonnes. You'd have to run over 600 cars constantly until the wheels pop off to produce the same amount of carbon dioxide. Scientific proof that this show is steaming hot garbage, because how else could you be producing those numbers? One vendor reported collecting 11,433 cubic meters of landfill waste so far that season, about 4.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. A second collected 30.5 cubic meters of soft plastic and 1,885 cubic meters of landfill waste. A third reported having collected 355.5 tons of landfill waste, the weight of around 25 London double-decker buses. And the person they're quoting here goes on to say that they still have a lot left to count. Well, that is a gargantuan amount of garbage, and it's not even the final figure. And that doesn't even include the weight of the cast. Just gonna have to wait for them to show up in landfill, and then, make sure you add that to the total. As the season wrapped, the sustainability team wrote that their work so far had been largely diagnostic. As we figure out what's going on, we can identify the issues and figure out how things might be done differently moving forward. So, the sustainability team didn't actually solve any of the environmental problems this show was causing. They just used season 1 of Rings of Power as a blueprint to develop ways of avoiding creating all of the waste and emotional damage that this first season did. A reminder once again, people who support this show, you're supporting the killing of little baby penguins and little baby polar bears. A spokesperson for Amazon declined to respond on record to individual questions on the specifics of the production's final carbon footprint, waste footprint, disposal of sets, water use, or waste disposal practices. Damn, Amazon sure have gone awfully quiet when it comes to figures surrounding the Rings of Power, which is... it's a little bit strange, considering they were very excited to share with us the figure of the premiering episodes. 25 million people tuned in to watch the first 2 episodes, but since then we've heard, well, absolutely nothing. Could it be that this show really is as big as they claim that it is, and they're just being humble about the numbers? They don't want to show off. What's the need? It's not like this is Amazon's biggest project or anything like that. Or could it be that the numbers just aren't that good? I'll give you 2 guesses which one I think it is. They said sustainability staff had enabled the production to successfully achieve a carbon footprint that was lower than the industry benchmarks, but declined to add to their statement what the final carbon footprint actually was or what industry benchmark they measured it against. We've done a thing. Oh, okay. A good thing. That's wonderful. What did you do? Yes. Well, Amazon certainly isn't shy when it comes to shenanigans now, are they? But what do you think? Do you think that season 1 of Rings of Power was worth 14,500 tons of CO2? I certainly don't think so, but that isn't surprising, is it? Like and subscribe, you bitch. And as always, a big shout out to my top tier members, Pozobon, Flunky, Jax, and Brennus. Your names are as gorgeous as they are blue. Tier 2 members, Steve the Goat, Dr. Melsky, Saeed, MG Virgil, Kuno Sako, Mark Maidens, and Sensei Fang. Living legends. Tier 1 patrons and channel members, also a big thank you to each and every one of you, and a big welcome to Michael Turpia. It's great to have you on the channel, and thank you for joining me for my last video premiere. I really appreciate that. Once again, the support you show me behind the scenes really does make a difference, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you guys. Thank you. And there we go, another day, another video. Will you join me for my next one? Hopefully. you little bitch. And I'll see you very soon. But in the meantime, do take care of yourself. And I'll see you very soon.